Hi there, welcome back to Speak Up for Blue TV. I'm Andrew Lewin, founder of SpeakUpForBlue.com, where we support ocean conservation through education, awareness, and action. Welcome back to the Monday show. I hope you had a terrific weekend, and for those of us in North America, I hope you had a terrific Super Bowl weekend. The game was fantastic, and I hope your team won. I know my team did, and I won a lot of money off it. But anyway, let's get on with the show because we have lots to talk about. Our first story brings us into the Mediterranean, where an organization called Blackfish launched a campaign to eradicate drift nets around the world, but especially concentrating in the Mediterranean. And if you don't know much about Blackfish, there's a link below in the description, but essentially they're an international marine conservation organization that wants to change the attitudes towards ocean and protect them. So change the public attitude toward oceans and protect the oceans from the ways we use it right now. Now, the UN has actually banned drift nets around the world. And according to the Blackfish, drift nets are used in the Mediterranean to catch fish like swordfish and tuna. But unfortunately, they end up killing over 100,000 cetaceans, which are whales, dolphins, and seals. And they also kill over 100,000 sharks per year. And a lot of them are endangered. And on top of that, not only do they kill a lot of these animals, but they only catch about 15% of the targeted species. So the other 85% end up being cetacean, sharks, and other fish that are not targeted, and they end up being either thrown over or kept illegally, thrown overboard and killed or kept illegally. So how do we conserve this, or how do we stop this issue? Well, the first step that we have to do in the conservation process is to make people aware of it. So that's why I'm profiling it on the Ocean News story today, because I want people to share as much as possible, get the word out there. Let's talk about drift nets, and let's talk about banning drift nets around the world and showing fishermen that it's not good to use drift nets. The second step is actually what I just said, is let's educate fishermen on alternative uses to not only decrease the catches of endangered species and larger species that are not targeted, but increase their actual efficiency in their target species from 15% to higher. And one organization that's actually doing it is called the Consortium for Wildlife Bycatch Reduction, which is based out of New England Aquarium in Massachusetts. And I actually interviewed Kate McClellan, one of the research coordinators, back in July of 2011 about the research and the engagement that they have with the fishermen around the world. So check that interview out. I really suggest it. It's a little bit long. It's about a 5-part series, but it's really educational for bycatch reduction. And I think a lot of the methods that they use can be used in this story too. So the Blackfish organization, if you're hearing about this, you can actually check this interview out and probably contact the bycatch reduction organization to find out more. That is our first story today. Let's move on to the second story, where we actually go to the United States off Virginia Beach on the East Coast, where humpback whales have been observed off Virginia Beach during a time when they're not normally found. And the reason why they're doing this, or actually before we get into that, a population of about 800 humpback whales usually migrate from they migrate from the Caribbean in the winter all the way to the Arctic in the summer. In the summer they feed in the Arctic, and then on the way back, on the long way back, they breed in the Caribbean. But they're actually in Virginia Beach right now in a winter time where we are actually experiencing warmer than normal temperatures. In North America, we barely had any snow during the winter, and so therefore the ocean waters are actually warmer. And so the humpbacks are hanging around Virginia Beach, and the reason why is because the fish that they eat are actually off the coast of Virginia Beach and Maryland. So they're staying there, which is really good for what industry? The whale watching industry, which usually have year-round tours, but they barely see any humpback whales this time of year. But this has been the best year in over 30 years during the winter season. And what's really cool about this is the whale watching industry in Virginia Beach are being really cautious with their situation that they have. So the industry refrains from stressing out the animals by not approaching the whales head on, because apparently that stresses them out, and not boxing them in, and which makes sense because who wants to be boxed in, especially a large whale. And they even go to the point of they will not follow, when they see a whale, they will not follow the whale for long periods of time. Now luckily the humpback whale is a very social animal, more social than a lot of other marine mammals, whales and cetaceans. So and to the point where on one occasion, one humpback whale approached the vessel so close that when it came up for air and blew out the water from its blowhole, it actually splashed some of the passengers, including the captain of one ship. And I think the captain even said it was probably one of the most wretched smells he's ever smelled. Smelled like dead people, which I don't know how he would know that. But he said it was one of the most wretched smells, but one of the most memorable events he's ever had in his life, which is really great because I really like to see the whale watching industry embrace and respect the whales so much. I mean, if you think about it, they kind of have to, because that's their living. If without the whales, there would be no whale watching. I mean, it kind of makes sense. But a lot of people in the past have, noted that whale watching fleets get too close, or they try and touch the animals and get in their way and really stress them out. But it's really nice to see that the industry is focusing on a more respectful approach and making sure that they keep their distances, but they still get to see the whales. And apparently this whale season, the whales are breaching, they're catching fish all the time, they're feeding like crazy, and it's a really, really cool show. So hats off to the whale watching industry in Virginia Beach. And to those who are not doing it, look at these people. They're making money doing ecotourism, and they're doing a really good job at it, and they're being environmentally friendly. So I applaud you. My hat goes off to you. And that is our show for today. But before we go, of course, I'm going to leave you with the question of the day. And it goes back to our first story. And it says, it talks about, how do you think we can stop fishermen from using drift nets in the Mediterranean and around the world? Now, of course, I already mentioned one example of the Consortium for Wildlife Bycatch Reduction, which educates fishermen on alternative uses and researches alternative uses to reducing bycatch. But how do you think we can reduce bycatch? Obviously, the UN ban is not working. Do we need more strict regulations, better fines, what have you? You decide. You let me know in the comments below. And of course, if you want to see more episodes of Ocean News around the world, click the annotation below. Of course, subscribe to the channel. Click on the annotation up in the corner to see past episodes. And as always, share as much as possible. Pass it on to your friends, your family, your social networks. We need to educate the world. We need to make people aware of what's happening in the ocean. This is my effort to doing it. And of course, I am Andrew Lewin, founder of SpeakUpForBlue.com. And this is the show for today. Happy conservation.